Hello, communicators. Welcome to episode 20 of the audio series The Communicator. Let's dive into the world of corporate communications from an in house lens. I'm Yesenia Reinoso, your host, and thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the show or are a general member, hit that subscribe button. You can also share, like, and comment on this and previous episodes at your disposal. Spread it far and wide, friends. I'm available on social media, so follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter/X. All of my handles are listed in the episode description box below. And finally, this episode and all previous 19 volumes are now available across all primary podcast mediums. Every new episode comes out on the first and third Mondays of the month, which you can hear on your laptop, mobile, or any portable electronic device. Now that we got that brilliant intro out of the way, welcome back to a brand new episode of The Communicator Season 2. I am so ecstatic that we are reunited here once again in our podcast core inner circle, ready to dive into another special corporate communications topic. Obviously, our theme is external communications, and so this time we are going to be continuing our journey through that subdivision with an entirely new topic that I think is going to be of interest for our listeners. And before we dive in, I just want to let everybody aware that we have officially made it to the halfway point of the second season of The Communicator. Yay! Balloons are bursting, the music is blasting, toasting with our wine glasses or iced tea, whatever it is your preference, high in the air. I'm sure everybody is excited that we have now reached the first and completed, I should say, the first 5 episodes of the second season. And I just want to make everybody aware that now that we hit episode 20, after this, we will officially be hitting our annual summer break. And so and I'm sure all of you will be taking that much needed summer vacation to recharge, relax, self-reflect, get a little tan, but more importantly, catch up on all of the Communicator episodes. And we're all going to reconvene back in the fall with our pumpkin spice lattes and get ready to dive into the second half of the second season of The Communicator before we hit our annual hiatus. And so I just want to make everybody aware that the first 4 episodes of The Communicator are obviously available across all major podcast mediums, but more importantly, the fact that whether you are a new member or a regular, the fact that you have been here every step of the way, whether it's on the very first episode or just recently the last one, perhaps even this one, just having you here, listening and being part of this journey, being informative, and also telling me your advice, suggestions, anything to further improve the program is something that I am forever grateful, and it touches the depths of my soul. And so thank you for being a part of the Communicator community. We are growing bigger, better than ever, and I know for a fact that everything that I do here is for all of you. And I'm just shedding tears right now. And I just want to say again, I can't wait for the Communicator story to continue writing. And I know for a fact that all of us here, whether it's through your suggestions, your ratings, your reviews, anything whatsoever, your support in just sharing this episode, as well as the others, but more importantly, just you being here is what matters the most. And so now that I've gotten all of that beautiful fluff in your ears, let's go right into episode number 20. And so with our popular theme, external communications, we have basically dived into various areas within the external communications subdivision, whether it's the actual external communications itself, to public relations, media relations, and difference. And now we're going to be focusing on the other themes within external communications. And one that has been popping up and has firmly established itself within the last decade, and one that I think all of us, not only within the corporate circles, but us working in the nonprofit circles, I think you may be quite interested and invested in this particular topic, and that is corporate social responsibility, or CSR for short. And so when we think about corporate social responsibility, we are referring to it as a business practice where organizations, whether you work in-house or agency, focus and integrate social and environmental concerns in the operations and interactions with shareholders, stakeholders, board of directors, internal and external audiences, among others. And so, for this particular episode, I want to give all of you a full 360 overview as to what exactly is corporate social responsibility, the primary definition, the scope of work, why is it important, how do we differentiate it, the roles, the connections to corporate and external communications. Also, we're going to be analyzing CSR and the nonprofit connection as well, the future of CSR and the impact. And so, obviously, if for those who are starting to get to know me better, I've been able to work in the nonprofit sector for about half of my career. I have almost a 15-year career in corporate communications within corporate America. And so I've had the opportunity to work in a wide variety of areas within the nonprofit space, whether it's education, healthcare, membership, among others. And I've had the glance to actually see from within a marketing and communications aspect just how nonprofit organizations utilize their strategies, sometimes whether it's universal or targeted, to be able to effectively promote and discuss their core mission, vision, and values to the general public, and as well as other key prominent individuals. And so, with the emergence of CSR, we've been seeing a solidification and a bridge between corporate America and the nonprofit space. And so we are witnessing a lot of organizations being much more specific in regards to the actual causes that these organizations want to represent, as is interwoven with their mission, their vision, and their core values. And ultimately, they want to be able to cement themselves as true thought leaders, not only from within their own industry sector, but also outside of it as well, being true partners to the community. And so, whether it's through initiatives, campaigns, or any other fun or informative activity, organizations view CSR as a chance to further elevate their footprints, but also giving the nonprofit organizations an opportunity for them to tell their story, and through partnerships, be able to amplify that aspect. And so, I want to tell everybody that this episode, CSR, is going to be one that everyone is going to be well known about. If you have already worked, whether it's within corporate or nonprofit, and need a refresher, this is for you. And for those who are just getting introduced into the arena, hopefully this episode will be of good interest. And so, Communicator family, are we ready to dive in? Yes, let's not waste any time. Head first, baby. So, let's communicate the CSR, shall we? Great. All right, so now we're going to focus on what exactly is CSR, the basic definition of it. And so, corporate social responsibility, I should say, involves the voluntary actions that companies take to operate ethically and contribute positively to society beyond their legal obligations. The scope of work. And so the scope of work includes initiatives related to environmental, sustainability, community development, ethical labor practices, and philanthropy. Now we have seen corporate organizations be much more aligned with nonprofit organizations that directly tie into the areas of interest that that are beneficial, or their audience want them to be much more involved in. So CSR is basically a lot of real, genuine, authentic action. The very last thing that organizations wants to pull is a performative stunt. Nobody likes that. It's fake, it's hypocritical, and if you're not well informed of the particular societal issue that you are planning to advocate further, then there's no point in being involved. You need to be truly well informed, be critically thought of, and as well as develop real, genuine, organic, authentic connections, be well versed in the subject, and more importantly, be actively involved in it in order for you to make connections with all of your internal and external audiences. And so that will bridge us to why CSR is important. And so there are three reasons as to why organizations should incorporate CSR at some point within their organizational trajectories. The first one is enhanced reputation. Companies that engage in CSR often build a positive reputation and enhance their brand image and footprint. The second reason is risk management. Addressing social and environmental issues proactively can mitigate risk, which is related to any kind of regulatory changes, community relations, and consumer perceptions. And the third reason is due to employee engagement. CSR activities can boost employee morale, attract talent, and improve retention rates. When we're going to be focusing that in the internal communications area, we see that employees will play a key role in the organization, in the recommendations as to what the organizations should pursue. The the organiza- uh, the nonprofit organizations, I should say, that that corporate businesses should target, and how to best approach them. And so now we move on to the differentiation of CSR. And there are three key areas that communications and general business pros ought to be aware of. The first one is authenticity, which is heavily synonymous across the corporate communications world, and something that I, as well as every pro, is preaching. Is the genuine commitment to CSR versus superficial or token effects. As I just recently stated, the very last thing that organizations ought to be doing is to put performative, hypocritical stunts. Nobody likes that, and people can smell it from a mile away. Throughout my corporate tenure, especially within the nonprofit space, always want to make sure that organizations have a real, genuine, organic effort in actually not only highlighting their expertise, but also being actively involved in the community and addressing the areas of need that people are seeking. And so when you're out in the field engaging with the public, you want to make sure that the services or the programs that you're offering are directly impacting the lives of all of these individuals. And then in return, the public will start developing a sense of trust among you. And then once they get more comfortable and see the results of your work, you end up establishing yourself as a reliable source. And the community in return will start discussing about your work and become your official brand ambassadors in further expanding your footprint within local neighborhoods. Second is impact. The measurable outcomes that benefit society and stakeholders, whether it's through data, word of mouth, or any other key metric. I think we all agree that the impact of CSR policies and the way as to how it evolves are what ultimately what businesses are going to be looking at to determine whether or not there is a real return of investment in terms of community efforts. Obviously, everybody's going to be thinking about it from a profit standpoint, but that should not be the case. The key here is making impact that is going to be beneficial in the interest and the eyes of the community. You are there to change people's lives genuinely. And so through CSR, you want to make sure that all of your teams, from junior all the way up to the senior levels, are fully invested in finding ways as to how we could deliver policies and initiatives that are ultimately going to benefit the livelihoods of people who may not have access to services that people in other areas may not be able to get. The third is transparency. Clear communications about CSR activities and their impact. Basically, being transparent in traditional and digital channels where you talk about your programs and making sure that people have access to it so that they are well informed, ethically, and truthfully about what is happening within your organization. and as well as the partners that you are aligned with. The role of CSR is focused within internal and external stakeholders. So let's look at the internal side. When dealing with internal stakeholders, the role of CSR is about leadership and how it defines the CSR strategy, and it oversees the implementation. So that is from whether it's from your senior executives to your employees, perhaps maybe your board that may have a strong presence internally could also have a role, etc. Then we got external, the external stakeholders, and they engage with communities, customers, investors, and regulators to align CSR efforts with their expectations and needs. And so now we're going to look at the connection. So we're going to start with the connection within corporate communications and external communications when it comes to CSR. From an internal communications standpoint, you want to ensure that employees understand and participate in CSR initiatives where they foster a sense of purpose. Sometimes you want to build employee resource groups, or ERGs for short, where they can come in and be able to educate themselves further about the particular societal topic or the organizations that they're going to be partnering with. And then from an external communication side, it effectively communicates the CSR efforts to customers, investors, and communities in order to build trust and loyalty. And so, through your communications mediums on the external side, communications departments or agencies are able to promote and tell the efforts of what the organization is doing, whether it's through, again, partnering with a nonprofit organization, developing their own scholarship program, or a mentorship program that that helps serve youth, introducing them to a particular industry sector. There are a wide variety of societal campaigns that organizations can be a part of and figure out ways as to how they can deliver the impact that ultimately benefits communities. And so we also want to look into other areas, which includes reputation management, which CSR activities shape how a company is very much perceived by external stakeholders, including consumers, investors, regulators, and the media. Trust, as we just mentioned, transparent communications about CSR initiatives that build trust, credibility, and demonstrating an organization's commitment to social and environmental responsibility. It's almost like making a real commitment that you are going to be effectively doing this, and doing this in a way that is going to propel real action. A call and communicative one. Differentiation. CSR can differentiate a company from competition by highlighting its values, ethical practices, and positive impact of society. And the risk mitigation. Effective external communications can mitigate risks that are related to either environmental, social, and governance, ESG for short, issues that demonstrate proactive management and responsiveness. And now that we focused on the connection of CSR, let's quickly shift into the nonprofit space, where again, CSR has a very strong connection within the nonprofit or advocacy sector. And so, if you are either working in the nonprofit space, like I have, or working in a corporate for-profit environment, it's very important that from that standpoint, the connections between both heavily rely on these four areas. The collaborative effort part. So when you're collaborating, CSR offers partnerships with nonprofits and advocacy groups to address social and environmental issues. And again, the nonprofit space has a plethora of societal areas that you as an organization can align with. Very important to do the research, by the way. If you're going to be partnering up with any nonprofit organization, you need to ensure that you have an understanding as to who are those nonprofit organizations, the work that they do, the mission, vision, and values, why are they involved, what are their programs, the community that they ultimately serve, especially if it's a multilingual one as well. So you want to be able to produce content or a partnership that is that is ultimately going to resonate with a multilingual audience, and then effectively bring real genuine initiative and action to ensure that both the business and the nonprofit organization ultimately benefit from the work that is being done. Resource sharing. Companies may provide funding, expertise, or volunteers to support nonprofit initiatives. Events are also another way where resource sharing can be done. I've had my fair share of working at events, especially mainly from the communication side, where I worked with other departments and as well as externally to talk about the organization's story, what we do, who is actively involved, and more importantly, why as a nonprofit organization we do the work that we do. The advocacy support. CSR activities can align with advocacy goals, amplifying efforts to influence policy or social change. And again, that stems from the resource sharing. So you could easily make that connection from that perspective. And finally, the shared goals. Both sectors aim to create a positive and societal impact that is through different organizational structures and approaches. And so ultimately, if you're a for-profit organization that, let's say, wants to focus on the environment, you want to be able to align with nonprofit organizations or advocacy groups that firmly discuss a specific area within the environment that is of direct interest to you, that you are deeply invested in learning more of, and more importantly, developing real communicative action, messaging, and policy, both in within the nonprofit and within the for-profit circles. They have ties with government, and so you'll be able to advocate and influence and lobby different types of legislative policies, whether it's on the local, state, or federal levels, that can ultimately bring change to all communities. And so we're going to talk about now next is the impact of effective external communications for CSR. So as we just mentioned, it's all about the reputation, stakeholder loyalty, the investor confidence, and as well as the regulatory and public relations. And all of that is invested through proactive communications, where it can pretty much influence any kind of outcome and foster positive relationships, whether it's with internal audiences or external audiences. There is also connection with shareholders, stakeholders, and board of directors, because they obviously want to remain informed as to what is happening and also utilize their resources and their networks to be able to further enhance what it is that both the for-profit organization itself and the nonprofit are bringing to the table. And so if you're going to be looking at strategies, you want to make sure that you incorporate all transparency and authenticity pillars and communicate it honestly, sharing ideas, successes, and challenges. It's okay if there's a slip up every once in a while or numerous ones occur. The main thing is that you are learning from it and being able to incorporate those lessons into your strategies and be able to adjust them on the fly to ensure that your reputation remains intact. The stakeholder engagement. So be able to actively listen and be involved with your shareholders, your stakeholders, board of directors, everybody in CSR initiatives, and addressing those concerns and priorities. Everybody plays a role. There may be something that that works or doesn't work, and that's why feedback is so important, to be able to again adjust on the fly and be able to continue without any issues. Consistency. Align all CSR messaging with overall corporate values and business practices to reinforce that authenticity. And that is where, again, we talked about quotable and shareable and communicative information that is ultimately going to deliver a call to action. I know that's been a little bit repetitive, but I can't stress those parts enough, because there is a heavy line between ensuring that audiences are very well informed about what it is that you do versus something that is not real and doesn't resonate altogether. Again, people can smell a fake from a mile away. And I always like to advise people to stay away from that. There's no point in destroying your reputation with something that you clearly do not know. Educational campaigns. We're seeing it a lot across the for-profit and the nonprofit circles, and I've had the opportunity from an educational standpoint, as well as communications, to effectively deliver different types of awarenesses about social and environmental issues and addressing them, whether it's through education of stakeholders, media relations, encouraging support on social media or through community feeds, and as well as internal communications. And so being properly educated and aware is going to absolutely put you in a much better position to be able to confidently discuss more about the societal issue that you are bringing at the forefront. And finally, crisis communications. Be ready to respond to criticism or setbacks transparently, demonstrating commitment to continuous improvement. And again, this all the way goes back to what I've been repeating throughout this episode about the importance of not being a fake. No performative action. People can smell that from a while away. And if you're not well educated on the particular societal aspect, there is no point in you talking about it at all. Because if you do and create all of these efforts that may not work in the end, people are going to see that, and your reputation could very much take a hit. They will no longer trust you, and you may very well be on the opposite eye of the spectrum that no organization wants to be in, and it could definitely well bring a devastating effect for your business financially as well. And finally, I want to talk about the future of CSR, where we're witnessing it integrated with business strategy, where we're going to be seeing an increase in terms of the core strategic plans and how it infuses along with the other key aspects within the business. And finally, the emphasis on impact measurement. And companies will definitely focus on demonstrating tangible results from both social and environmental policies, campaigns, and initiatives. And so that is it. We have been able to go around the CSR space, and I hope each and every one of you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions about CSR or anything about external communications that we've discussed, not only in this episode, but in the previous ones, obviously don't hesitate to reach out to me. My lines are always open. And it is because of that, we have now reached the end of episode 20 of the Communicator. And again, if you have any questions, you agree or disagree, topics I ought to be focusing on during the second half of season 2, feedback, highly welcome. Just email me at yr.ymedia@gmail.com. Email is listed in the episode description. And don't forget to follow me across all social media feeds and on the Communicator. If you haven't hit those subscribe buttons, do so right now, immediately following this episode, or whenever you have time. Share, like, and comment away. Elevate this podcast. Leave that 5-star rating or review. And lastly, tune into episode number 21 in the fall when we come back from our summer break. And I definitely want to say thank you to all of you. I will see you next time on the opposite end of the corporate communications spectrum. Enjoy the summer break. We'll see you in the fall. Till then, everyone.